Good evening. We begin today in Geneva, Switzerland, where U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has announced what he calls a tremendous amount of progress in peace talks aimed at ending the war in Ukraine. Following a crucial round of discussions with a Ukrainian delegation, Rubio expressed significant optimism, stating that negotiators had a very productive session. The talks are centered on a comprehensive 28-point framework, a document drafted by the United States that outlines the potential conditions for a ceasefire and a long-term political settlement between Ukraine and Russia. This framework has been the subject of intense negotiation for nearly 3 weeks, evolving with input from both sides. According to Secretary Rubio, the goal of the weekend meeting was to narrow down the open items within that plan, a goal he says was achieved in a very substantial way. The framework reportedly covers a wide range of critical issues, including security guarantees for Ukraine, the status of contested territories, mechanisms for post-war reconstruction, and the nature of Ukraine's future relationship with both NATO and the European Union. The process has involved extensive engagement on the ground with U.S. officials, including the Secretary of the Army, meeting with stakeholders in Kyiv across the political and military spectrum to refine the points of the agreement. While Rubio celebrated the progress, he also cautioned that the process is at a delicate stage. He clarified that a couple of key issues remain unresolved and will require higher-level decisions and further consultation. Some of these sticking points involve semantics, while others touch on the roles of international bodies like the EU and NATO, which will require separate discussions with European allies. Rubio stressed that any final agreement must ultimately be approved by the presidents of both nations. A potential call between President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is considered possible, but not yet confirmed. The urgency is clear, with Rubio noting, "The deadline is we want to get this done as soon as possible." Meanwhile, the U.S. military is focusing on security matters closer to home. Today, 2 of the nation's top military leaders are in Puerto Rico to meet with troops supporting missions across the Caribbean and Latin America. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Kane, and the senior enlisted advisor to the chairman, David Isom, are scheduled to engage with service members stationed on the island and with sailors operating at sea. This visit underscores the growing importance of the region in U.S. defense strategy. It follows a similar trip in September by General Kane and Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, who thanked troops at Muñiz Air Base for their service. This high-level attention comes as the U.S. expands its military footprint in the Caribbean, largely as part of President Trump's directive to combat drug trafficking from Latin America. A key component of this strategy is the recently launched Operation Southern Spear, a mission led by U.S. Southern Command to dismantle narco-terrorist networks throughout the Western Hemisphere. Since early September, the operation has involved a series of lethal strikes against narcotics vessels in the Caribbean and Eastern Pacific. These operations have targeted designated terrorist organizations, including Venezuela's Tren de Aragua gang and Colombia's Ejército de Liberación Nacional, or ELN. According to reports, these strikes have destroyed dozens of ships and resulted in the deaths of an estimated 82 suspected narco-terrorists. The campaign has utilized targeted attacks on a variety of vessels, from submersibles to high-speed boats, with a number of incidents occurring near the Venezuelan coast. Back in Washington, President Donald Trump took to social media on Sunday to declare that the Republican Party has never been so united as it is right now. The passionate post on Truth Social came amid visible signs of internal division over issues like leadership, tariffs, and legislative priorities. In his message, the president acknowledged some dissent, but dismissed his critics. He specifically called out Senator Rand Paul, Representative Thomas Massie, and Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, referring to them as lowlifes. He gave Greene a new nickname, Marjorie Traitor Brown, highlighting a particularly deep rift with his former ally. This public rebuke follows Greene's announcement just 2 days prior that she was resigning from Congress. Once one of Trump's most vocal supporters, Greene fell out with the president after he claimed she had gone far left. In her resignation statement, Greene criticized what she called the political industrial complex of both political parties, arguing that nothing ever improves for the average American. Her departure drew mixed reactions. Representative Thomas Massie praised her statement for its honesty, calling her a true representative. On the other side of the aisle, Democratic Representative Jasmine Crockett expressed disbelief, saying on CNN, "You're on the other side of the president for 1 week, and you can't take the heat." The influence of American conservative figures is also making waves overseas, where a young activist in the United Kingdom reports facing violence and intimidation. 17-year-old Thomas Moffat, a conservative activist known online as Young Bob, says he has been physically attacked and has received death threats while promoting the message of Turning Point UK. The latest incident occurred on November 20th at the London School of Economics, where he was invited to speak on socially conservative values. Moffat reported that after an hour of civil debate, a group of masked activists began protesting, attempting to steal his materials, and mocking the death of Charlie Kirk, the founder of Turning Point USA. Kirk, a central figure in youth conservative politics, was assassinated earlier this year while speaking at a university in Utah. His movement has since inspired international chapters, including the one Moffat represents. Moffat stated he is trying to continue Charlie's fight in the UK, but has faced extreme hostility. He described a pattern of violence that includes having bottles of urine, glue, and cans of beans thrown at him. He also recounted being physically assaulted and receiving a death threat from a man with a knife at London Speaker's Corner. Despite the attacks, Moffat says he remains determined to grow the conservative movement in Britain, drawing inspiration from the model Kirk successfully built in the United States. The legacy of Charlie Kirk was also cited as a motivation for a surprising new candidate entering a congressional race in Texas. Author Vince Shlomi, better known to late-night television viewers as the high-energy ShamWow guy, has officially filed to run for Congress as a Republican. State election records show his filing for Texas's 31st congressional district, a reliably red stronghold that includes the northern suburbs of Austin. Shlomi, who is 61, said in an interview that he was inspired to run to destroy wokeism and as a tribute to the late Charlie Kirk, whom he called the original woke buster. He is entering a crowded primary field, aiming to unseat the 84-year-old incumbent, Congressman John Carter. Shlomi became a pop culture icon in the 2000s with his famous infomercials for the super absorbent ShamWow towel. However, his rise to fame was marked by several high-profile controversies, including a 2009 arrest in Miami Beach following a violent altercation with a sex worker. After years out of the public spotlight, Shlomi is now re-emerging in the political arena, hoping to trade his pitchman persona for a seat in the U.S. House of Representatives.